I thought retirement would be me sipping coffee on my porch, watching the sun dip behind the hills, maybe even figuring out how to grill a decent steak without setting off the smoke alarm. After 30 years in the Army, long nights, longer deployments, decisions that kept me awake until dawn, I figured I'd earn a quiet life, you know? Just me, my modest two-story house in Pinewood Heights, perched on a steep slope overlooking a sleepy little neighborhood, tucked away in the Colorado foothills. But life's got a way of laughing at your plans, doesn't it? My name's Jack Ramsey, and this is the story of how a nosy HOA president named Linda Harper turned my backyard into a war zone, and how I fought back when her reckless ambition brought a 230 kilovolt power pole crashing down. Yeah, you heard that right. A power pole. Let me take you back to how it all started, because trust me, it's a hell of a ride. I bought the house in Pinewood Heights 3 years ago, a cedar-sided place with creaky floors and a stone patio that caught the morning light just right. The backyard sloped down sharp into a tangle of sagebrush and wild grass, bordered by a rickety wooden fence I kept meaning to replace. Beyond that, there was a narrow strip of land the HOA called a communal greenway, though it was mostly dirt and thistles. I liked it that way, kept the neighbors at a distance. The seller had been in a hurry to offload the place, practically threw the keys at me. Looking back, I should have asked more questions, but I was bone-tired from years of moving around, and the price was too good to pass up. What I didn't know then was that my slope wasn't just a pretty viewit was holding up more than just my house. It was the backbone of the whole damn neighborhood. The Pinewood Heights Community Association was one of those HOAs that loved their clipboards more than their common sense. They sent out monthly newsletters nagging about lawn heights and approved paint colors, but I paid my dues, kept my trash cans hidden, and stayed out of their way. I wasn't looking to make friends or enemies, just wanted to be left alone. Then Linda Harper moved in 4 houses down, and everything changed. Linda was the kind of woman who wore pressed blouses and a fake smile like they were body armor. She'd been elected HOA president after some dust-up about a neighbor's tacky Halloween decorations to ask. I still don't know the details. She walked the neighborhood like she owned it, clipboard in hand, her heels clicking on the sidewalk like a metronome. First time I met her, she didn't even say hello, just pointed at a patch of dandelions in my front yard and said, "Those need to go, Mr. Ramsey, per section 4.2 of the community guidelines." I chuckled, thinking she was kidding. She wasn't. A week later, a $50 fine showed up in my mailbox. That was my first taste of Linda Harper, and let me tell you, it left a bad aftertaste. Over the next few months, Linda rolled out what she called the Pinewood Enhancement Project. Fancy name for ripping up perfectly good land to plant rose bushes and build walking paths nobody asked for. Her hand-picked board rubber-stamped every idea: new benches, a scenic overlook, even a dog park that was more gravel than grass. I stayed out of it. I'd seen enough power-hungry types in the military to know you don't poke a bear unless you're ready for claws. But then, one April morning, I heard a low, grinding beep that wasn't a car backing up. It was heavy machinery. I stepped onto my patio, coffee mug in hand, and squinted down the hill. There it was, a yellow backhoe clawing into the dirt right at the edge of my property. Guys in hard hats were spray painting lines, pounding stakes, and unloading gear like they were building a highway. A portable toilet sat next to a contractor's trailer, like they were planning to camp out. I marched down, my boots crunching on the dry grass, and flagged down a kid with a surveyor's pole. "What the hell's going on?" I asked. He shrugged. "HOA hired us. Something about a drainage ditch," said the slopes eroding. I stared at him. "This is my land. That's my slope." He looked uncomfortable. "They said it's shared runoff." "Share my ass." I had the deed, the survey, every scrap of paper proving the hill was mine. I'd spent 2 years maintaining itch-routing drainage pipes, shoring up the retaining wall after a bad storm. I knew every inch of that dirt. I called the HOA office. No answer. Emailed them. Got an auto reply. So I grabbed my property documents and drove to the community center. The office was locked, nobody home. That night, I called my old Army buddy, Claire, now a property lawyer. She didn't mince words. Jack, this isn't a mix-up. It's a violation. Document everything: photos, videos, timestamps. You're going to need it. The next day, I did just that. Camera in hand, I recorded the backhoe tearing up my slope, the tire tracks crossing my property line, the workers who wouldn't meet my eyes. I was pissed, but I kept my cool. Years of keeping my head in a crisis would do that to you. Well, I didn't know then. What none of us knew was that they weren't just digging up dirt. They were messing with something far more dangerous. A high-voltage utility pole anchored into my slope. Every scoop they took was loosening its grip, and that pole was about to become a 50-foot guillotine. It was a Tuesday morning when I woke to a sound I hadn't heard since my days overseas, a deep, guttural rumble that shook the windows. For a split second, I thought I was back in a war zone, hearing tanks rolling in the distance. Then I looked out my bedroom window and saw it. The backhoe was back, now well past my property line, clawing closer to the retaining wall I'd rebuilt last year. No cones, no signs, just a fresh scar in the earth. I threw on my jacket, grabbed my camera, and stormed down the hill. "Hey," I shouted, waving at the operator. "You're trespassing. This is my property. Shut it down." The guy in the cab gave me a blank stare, like he'd been told not to talk to me. He didn't stop, just swung the boom toward the base of the slope, right near the utility pole. That's when I lost it, not yelling, not cursing, but that cold, focused anger you get when you know you're right. I started filming. The trench, the tracks, the pole's concrete base now half exposed in the dirt. I zoomed in on the survey stakes 15 feet inside my legal boundary, and I had the plat map to prove it. A guy in an HOA polo shirt, mid-30s, nervous, sweating despite the morning chill, jogged up. "You can't be here during equipment operation," he said, eyeing my camera like it was a grenade. "You're digging illegally," I shot back. "No notice, no permits, no permission. This is my land, and that trench is a lawsuit waiting to happen." He stammered something about communal runoff and erosion hazards. I pulled up the plat map on my phone. "Show me where this says communal." "Go on." He couldn't. "Talk to Ms. Harper," he muttered. "Oh, I will," I said. That evening, I showed up at the HOA board meeting, my old Army jacket still dusted with Hillside dirt. The room was packed, neighbors sipping lemonade, whispering about the latest HOA drama. Linda sat at the front, her pearls gleaming under the fluorescent lights, looking like she was presiding over a royal court. "Mr. Ramsey," she said, her voice dripping with fake warmth, "how nice to see you." I didn't smile. "I'm here about your illegal dig on my property." The room went quiet. A few heads turned. Linda waved a hand. "The drainage project was board approved. You should have gotten a notice." "Didn't," I said. "And you don't have the right to touch my land. I've got the survey to prove it." She smirked. "We had our own survey done." I held up a photo of the backhoe, 15 feet past my property line. "Then your surveyor's a hack, because this is my slope." Someone gasped. Linda's pen tapped faster. I didn't stay for her rebuttal. I'd said my piece. The next morning, the backhoe was gone, but the damage was done. After a light rain, I noticed the slope sagging near the pole's base, not a collapse, but a slow, tired slump like the earth was giving up. I checked the pole, a rusted metal giant carrying enough juice to light up half the neighborhood. Its concrete footing was exposed, rebar poking out like broken bones. I called the county utilities office. They said they'd send someone in a week. A week? I didn't have a week. That night, the power flickered once, twice, then went out. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped outside. The pole was leaning, maybe 10 degrees off vertical, its wires sagging like a tightrope about to snap. My stomach dropped. I'd seen structures fail before, bridges, barracks, you name it. This was one gust away from disaster. I called 911. "This isn't a crime or a medical emergency," I said. "It's a high-voltage pole about to crash into a neighborhood. Get someone out here now." 20 minutes later, 2 cop cars rolled up. Officer Diaz, a young guy with a sharp gaze, took one look at the pole and radioed for backup. The fire department arrived next, then utility crews with drones and clipboards. Linda showed up in her pristine SUV, her face frozen when she saw the chaos police tape, flashing lights, neighbors gawking. She marched up to a utility worker, waving her arms. "This is a misunderstanding. We had a survey." The worker cut her off. "Did you clear this with us before digging?" "Yes or no?" She hesitated. "No," he shook his head. "You're lucky nobody's dead." The next day, the HOA sent me a letter hand-delivered, no stamp. It accused me of obstructing community operations and threatened fines, maybe even a lawsuit. I laughed, pinned it to my corkboard, and called Claire. "They're bluffing," she said. "Keep pushing." So I did. I sent my photos, videos, and surveys to the county, the State Utilities Commission, even a buddy at the Department of Energy. Overkill? Maybe, but I wasn't playing games. By noon, the slope made a sickening crack, like fabric tearing. The pole's base was fully exposed now, its wires humming nervously in the wind. I put up a cardboard sign, "Danger, unstable ground." Then the rain came, not a downpour, just a steady drizzle that turned the trench into a muddy scar. That night, I heard Ida low groan, metal straining. I ran outside, flashlight bouncing, and saw the pole tilt further. I banged on my neighbor Tom's door, a retired EMT who lived downhill. "Get your family out of the backyard. Now." He didn't argue. Minutes later, the ground shuddered. The pole didn't just foul, it twisted, snapped, and crashed into the greenway below, sparks flying like a 4th of July show. A transformer blew, lighting up the sky in blue. The neighborhood went dark. Sirens wailed. Neighbors shouted. Linda showed up again, her clipboard useless against the chaos. She yelled at a firefighter. This wasn't our fault. Nobody listened. The next morning, the HOA called an emergency meeting. I walked in with a folder of Evidence Me survey, their forged map, the county's report blaming unauthorized excavation. Linda tried to spin it. "A storm caused this," she said, her voice thin. "An act of nature." I stood up, calm as a sniper. "Here's my survey. Here's your fake map. Here's the engineer's report saying you caused this." Then I dropped the bomb. A 1984 restrictive covenant proving the slope was mine, always had been. The HOA never owned it. Their whole project was a lie. The room erupted. Neighbors stood, one by one, spilling years of grievances, fines for stupid things, threats over porch decorations, secret board votes. Tom spoke up. "Jack warned us. Save my family." Another neighbor chimed in. "I got fined for a birdhouse." "A birdhouse?" Linda's face cracked. She stammered about consultants and good faith. I cut her off. "Your consultant lost their license years ago. This is fraud." 3 board members quit on the spot. Linda stormed out. The county launched an investigation. The state audited the HOA. Linda tried to sue me for defamation, but it fell apart when I handed over the covenant to the city attorney. "You're bulletproof," the clerk said, grinning. The media got wind of it. Local news ran a story called "The Man Who Stopped the Fall." Neighbors started coming by, bringing coffee, thank yous, even a pie. Tom and his wife had me over for burgers. For the first time, I felt like I belonged. By summer, the slope was green again, wildflowers, new drainage, real engineering. I joined a county task force to reform HOAs, not just here, but statewide. Pinewood Heights elected a new board, led by Tom, who tore up the old fine system and opened the books. Linda? She faded away, her SUV still parked, her curtains drawn. I saw her once, carrying groceries, eyes down. I didn't wave. Didn't need to. Sitting on my patio now, I think about what home really means. It's not just a house or a deed, it's the ground you stand on, the fight you choose when someone tries to take it. I thought retirement meant fading out, but I was wrong. It's about standing up, speaking out, and knowing you can't be pushed around. Not by a clipboard, not by a fake map, not by anyone. So what do you think? Was I too hard on Linda, or did she have it coming? Have you ever dealt with an HOA horror story? Or maybe a neighbor who thought they ran the show? Drop a comment, share your take, I am all ears. And if this story hit home, give it a like, share it around. Sometimes, the best way to fight back is to make sure the truth gets heard.